David Frangioni, Nic Collins. We've got a kit rundown, and this kit is just fantastic. Nick, this is your studio kit.
Yeah.
Correct? In Miami studio kit. So let's go through it because it's just got a little bit of virtually everything.
Yeah.
What
definitely.
inspired this kit?
It's a lot of different drummers, a lot of different sounds. COVID was a big part of it, you know, where you weren't playing shows, so you're just like throw an extra splash, an extra set of rototoms just because you could.
And this is where it ends up.
Yeah, and then you end up writing parts with it, and then you're stuck. Ended up having to lug it over to the gig. So, but I love it. I really like this also creatively. You know, when I'm writing here with Better Strangers, even whatever it is, I have all the different colors to be able to put it in. I don't always use every single drum on one specific song, but if it was like a set's worth, it's all being used. You know, if everything's up, the only thing that maybe I don't use is this because it's only been here for like a week.
Okay.
That I'm like, I just threw there because I had the space.
Well, you know the rundown here is current then because that's still got fresh paint. So let's start with the acoustic drums.
Yep. So yeah, all Gretsch USA Custom. This is in a deep black marine pearl finish. So the kick drum is a 18 by 24. So a lot of air, but that was kind of originally inspired from Chad Smith. He was using a 24, and I was going through my bottom phase, but I was like 26 is a bit much. You know what I mean? I can't go that heavy. So 24, and then 8 and 10 inch concert toms. I'm pretty sure it's a 6 by 8, and then an 8 by 10. And then this is a 7 by 10 regular rack tom, 8 by 12 rack tom, 14 by 14 floor tom, 16 by 16 floor tom, and 16 by 18 floor tom. And literally as of 2 weeks ago, I started doing a 12 and 14 because usually what I've been using is a 13 inch, like a 9 by 13 and a 16 by 16. And this usually was over here. Okay. But some of the music that I'm writing here with Better Strangers now, if it was getting a bit more proggier and a bit more notey, and I felt like I was losing a bit of definition from the bigger drums, and I wanted a bit more punch. Okay. So that's why this is over here, because usually this is either like a stand for like something, a laptop, or even a side snare occasionally. But I was like, hey, I've got the space and we've got the extra inputs. Why not set it up there? Still haven't figured out how to really throw it into the playing yet. But then here's 8 inch and 10 inch, or maybe that's a 12. Yeah, 8 and 12 inch rototoms. And originally that was super Nick Mason inspired, like getting into the rototom stuff. But then since I've started using it more in like a bit of a Bill Bruford kind of way, instead of like what he would be doing on like Simmons pads or whatever, or electronics, I'm kind of doing that more with these rototoms.
Very melodic.
Yeah.
And what about the snare drum?
So this is a 6.5 by 14 Gretsch bell brass.
Okay.
Which is kind of just been my go-to recently. I love it. It's got, the bell brass snares, like, been
it's pretty iconic.
Exactly. So you can't go wrong
in terms of material, but they really nailed it.
Yeah, they nail it. It's got a lot of low end, but it also cracks. Okay. One thing that's weird, it's like when I first started playing them, it was like so loud to the point where like even with in-ears in, it was like, and I don't know if either that frequency has been permanently damaged in my hearing or whether I've just figured out a way of tuning it better, but it seems to not be as bad now, and it just really sits in the mix where it still cuts, but you actually get a real nice low end from it. And usually I usually playing 6.5 deep snares.
And are those emperors or ambassadors?
So on heads, so these are diplomats on the concert.
Diplomats.
Yep, that's the secret.
Wow.
That's the biggest tip of my dad's. Diplomats on the 8 and 10. That's what it is.
Nice.
That's what gets like the bark out of them.
Okay.
Even on all the full concert tom kit, it was always the diplomats on the first two and then ambassadors on the rest. But for this, it's clear emperors on the rest of the drums. I've experimented with different bottom ones. At the moment, like these three are just like the Gretsch permatone heads that come with the drum. I've experimented with, on the floor toms, putting pinstripes on the bottom.
Okay.
I don't know.
Which they have now?
Yeah, that one has it. This one doesn't, but these two have.
Okay.
Because it was an experiment I was doing with my tech, Eric Disrud, and he was, this is like maybe 5-6 years ago. We just settled on that this sounds the best. So we haven't changed it. There's no real kind of like method behind it. and then pinstripes on the rototoms,
And you have looks like an
Yeah.
Emperor coated with the black dot.
yeah,
under it.
coated Emperor X, and then an Ambassador snare side on the bottom, and then the head on the kick drum is a Power Stroke P4.
Okay.
Um,
And interestingly, on the DW pedals, you have those flat beaters.
yeah, I
When
just
did that come about?
So I started doing that a couple months ago. I've always loved the DW 9000 pedals. Like it used to be that almost essentially out of the box, I could play them and I didn't have to like set anything. Obviously now doing a bit more double kick kind of stuff, I've actually had to like dial in what I want tension wise. I usually just have them really tight, but I felt like when you're trying to do kind of fast, like, you know, I wouldn't consider myself a double kick player either. I can't blast beat or do any of that, but doing the faster kind of, you know, 6-note kick drum blast or something, I felt like with the flat beater, you actually just it was way easier to respond to it as opposed to like the kind of bigger stock DW thing that comes with it. But that being said, I do like the this kind of foam and not just, you know, when you reverse the regular DW beaters, which is just almost straight plastic. I feel like that's too much. So I do like retaining a little bit of warmth, but the flat ones really added just way more punch and made it more playable to me, at least in trying to figure out how to, you know, do those quick double kick stuff.
And then for cymbals, this is quite an array. And I
Yep.
see a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
This really looks, I know what these cymbals sound like, and obviously you'll hear Nick play them in this rundown, but this is really an awesome,
Yes.
you know, kind of palette.
I'm very lucky that these, you know, Sabian, Gretsch, all the companies that I'm with have been very good to me. And, you know, it's always my embarrassing email to Chris Stanky from Sabian, be like, I broke another crash. Like, can you send it? So they've always been very generous, but Sabian cymbals, man, like you said, it's a huge array and I really love the variety of sound that I get from them. So hi-hats
take us around.
Yeah, so 15-inch artisan hi-hats, light hats. Nice. And I've been using these, it's been the same pair of hi-hats for now probably 6 years or something like that.
So we heard these on Genesis?
No, not live. With Genesis, I was using probably 14-inch HHX hats or something. But these have always
in the studio, this has been your go-to.
And they're not broken, but them being so worn has like given this really nice warmth that I really love, and they sound darker. Then here is a 7-inch HHX Evolution Splash, 10-inch AAX Ozone Splash that I stack, and then continuing on with the splash is 8-inch AAX Aero Splash, and then an Evolution 12-inch Splash. Just different kind of varieties of like this style. The way I play, this is more kind of like trashy sounding, where those are actually more cymbal sounding.
Okay.
And then 19-inch HH Thin Crash, another 19-inch HHX Complex Thin, and then a 20-inch Complex Thin here. And what I love about those three cymbals specifically is they're really dark, and I've always been more of a dark crash. I do a lot of crashing on the crashes, and I feel like as much as I do love really bright cymbals too, when you're doing that, it just gets a bit much, especially for a live setting for an audience. And I don't know, it doesn't pick up as well in recording. So I really started loving the darker sounding cymbals. And then 22-inch Legacy HHX Heavy Ride. And again, this is one like similar to this. It's been on this kit for so long, it hasn't broken, and it's been really worn, but it's got this real nice sound to it. Up here, 18-inch HHX Ozone. This is one of my favorite cymbals that Sabian make. It's always kind of on my kit because it just gives a different side to the crash, and it just has this, you know, that trashy crash sound because of the holes. And that's the only kind of brilliant, obviously some of the splashes are brilliant, but that's the only brilliant crash I have on it because I want that kind of cut as opposed to the other ones where I prefer the more darker sounding. And then this is an A Holy China 21-inch. Again,
that's like Chad Smith.
Yeah, that was, you know, when he was with Sabian, and that was like, you know, huge influence for me. And that's always been on my kit since I really started playing Sabian cymbals. It's my favorite Sabian cymbal ever. I'm always, you know, whether we're doing breakdowns on the China or just always throwing it in there.
Sure.
Every kit that I've ever played, whether that's my dad's or the Genesis kit, it's always on the kit at some point. And then down here I have a stack, which is a combination of like a 19-inch HH China with like rivets flipped upside down with a 17-inch HH Ozone
Nice.
And it just kind of does the job. The way the stand is I kind of can twist it and it gets looser if I want something more slushy, and then something more tight for like the more, choppier sounding stuff. ProMark sticks, which is, I'm using the Forward 5B fire grain sticks. I used to use like something closer to a 5A. It was like kind of based off like Steve Gadd's Vic Firth model, but it was like, I really liked that weight when I was younger. But I ended up getting like a bunch of wrist problems. I think I was just like, it was too light and I was
overcompensate.
Yeah. And I was like 17, 18, like having to ice my wrists after a show. And I'm like, this is not okay. And so as soon as I changed to heavier sticks, it's been like night and day. I let it do most of the work. And the fire grain, gives it that extra durability a little bit. But yeah, I've been loving this. I've been using these for like a couple years now, and they've been great. And I'm trying to see if and there's Roland Electronics, which I'm also with Roland. I've been lucky enough to endorse them for a bit. Obviously, I'm not as into electronics as, the rest of the kit, but so there's just an old SPDX pad here that is also running to these two BT1 trigger bars.
Yeah.
And that's just for like, with Better Stranger, we don't use a click, so it's more one-shot stuff like sub, bass, or just little accents and stuff. Again, I have it here as a creative kind of outlet here.
Are the acoustic drums triggered?
No.
Okay, but we have an EAD10.
Yeah.
That's for practicing? Or
honestly, it's one of my favorite microphones because I use it mainly for monitoring. There's something about, I don't know what's going on with the processing inside, but it's like, for a drummer, to me, it's like the perfect sound of what you want to hear in your ears. It's like really compressed and like you just...
So it's just for your ears?
Yeah, but we also record it
Okay.
because I think it's also one of those things, to me, it's like stupidly easy how you can just like export it and then post it on Instagram, and it's like, oh, like, how'd you mix the snare? I'm like, dude, setting number 2 on the Yamaha EAD.
Because that's the mic of everything for the EAD.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can also add like whatever you want on it, the phasers or the delays on the actual module. Mm-hmm. But I just really love it for monitoring and also just being able to get a quick export. But that being said, also when I'm practicing, whether it was for clinics or for tours, I run it through there so you can get a balance of like what you're trying to hear from your laptop. And also, I know you can do it through the studio, but since the live room is out there, that just to me seemed easier to just combine the EAD along with my laptop.
And then a Porter and Davies drum stool.
Yep, with the BC2 kind of amplifier.
Oof, it's a bad boy.
Yeah, it worked. I think when I first got it, I was a bit excited and it was really cranked when I first started on like my dad's tour. Now I've really toned it down where it's just like giving me that little extra thing, but like I don't want to like, feel my stomach, like every single time I finish playing a set.
Right.
But yeah, it's become crucial. Well, I can manage without it, but it is very nice, especially in venues or a studio where you don't have a sub kick behind you, to just have that little bit of feel behind it.
And you used it on tour?
Yeah, I didn't use the amp. This was going straight through to like the monitor desk, and they'd feed. Like the great thing about this too is I'm getting a line input, so it's not just kick. That if I want to route snare to it too, or floor toms, you can kind of do everything. But it has a lot of features. You can also just go straight into the mic, which is always good for like if you're kind of plug and play at a gig, and you just it all like kind of go straight from the microphone into here and then go out to the front of house.
Right.
So it's definitely helpful, and it gives you that feel of like a sub even if you don't have one.
Right. I love it. What else? Anything else you want to share on the kit? Looks like pretty complete.
Yeah, overview. I've got the Tricks kind of drive between the double kick that just kind of was a bit smoother than the kind of stock DW one, but I still love that. It was just for the faster stuff. I think it was more me trying to come up with reasons why I wasn't as good as double bass as I thought I was, so I was just getting more and more stuff.
And that's the rod that connects it?
Yeah, the Tricks rod, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I think, that's pretty much it.
Nice little accessory.
Yeah, this is from British Drum Company. Those people have always been really nice to me. I'm not with them. Yeah, they've developed beautiful kit for him. Yep. But this was like, they're kind of, I think they call it like a Joe's Butler, where you just put your drinks in here and your phone, and it's super convenient. But you need it because we have, as drummers, we have a lot of gadgets and accessories, as well as people, because drummers are people too. We have phones and we have, all kinds of things that we need to have ready for before and after the gig. And I see a little bit of like moon gel or something. Yeah, these are like the Remo I think they call it like the Remo Crown gels or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, just to kind of dumb down a little bit of the overtones.
Sure.
I openly say I'm not the best drum tuner. You know, I grew up on concert toms. I can nail a concert tom sound, but you put another head there, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So, you know, shout out TuneBot. So
Well, this is an awesome kit. You're going to play it for us now, and we're going to get to hear all these incredible sounds and tones. But before you do, I want to say thank you.
Of course, man. Thank you so much for coming and for everything.
Nic Collins, modern drummer, drum kit rundown. This is Nick's studio kit in South Florida. We're going to follow your kits wherever they are, by the way, because I love
more than welcome all the time.
Thank you, because this is just awesome to share. There's so many sounds here. We're also going to take you to Nick's snare drum collection and some of his iconic drums, and a special treat of a drum case that he was gifted that is pretty much one of the most awesome drum cases I've ever been this close to. So we'll see that in this next segment. And thank you, everybody. David Frangioni, modern drummer. Nic Collins. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
So here we are, everybody, with Nic Collins' snare collection and just miscellaneous drum collection. This is a really cool group of instruments. So let's go down the list a little bit, because I see a couple of classics that I want us to dial into.
Snares. I wouldn't consider myself like a snare collector. These are more like snares that I've just gathered over the years. Like I won't go out and like scope out vintage snares and stuff.
Okay.
But I've been lucky enough to play a bunch, and so I never get rid of them. Obviously, I always just, you know, I'm like a hoarder. I'm always like, oh, I may need this in the studio one day, and then I end up just staying to the same one the whole time. So I've obviously got the bell brass on the kit now, but here, so this is a 12-inch British Drum Company snare, which actually they were kind enough that they made specifically on my dad's tour. I was looking for a 12-inch, and then Brad Marsh like hit them up, and on the side, they don't make 12 inches, but they exclusively made for Nicholas Collins.
Oh, nice.
And they were just the sweetest people. And that, you know, we had like the other thing, the British Drum Company thing.
Yeah.
So they've been like super sweet to me, despite me never being with them. But like, this is a great, you know, side snare that I've used on records and recordings before.
Fantastic.
Then this is the solid aluminum Gretsch snare, 6.5 by 14.
Round batch.
Yep. It sounds great. It's kind of the in-between between the regular Gretsch USA Custom wood snares and then the bell brass. So you get like the bit of metallic thing, but you know, obviously the bell brass is what it is, but this one gives it not as much of a kind of ring or cut. It's a bit more in the middle. Okay. And then, yeah, then the same 6.5 by 14 in a white marine pearl finish, which is like the opposite of the black one. And I actually really love just the regular Gretsch USA wood snares. They seem to have a really great tone, and you know, I used them for the Genesis tour. My dad's tour was just the regular wood snare. So then this is a piccolo, Noble and Cooley.
Now wait, don't go over this too fast, because this has some storied history.
Yep.
If it's true, you can tell us
Yep.
what you know
Well,
about it.
this is like my dad's well, this is not his snare. This is my, mine, but it's his, basically the same sizes and what he was using. And it's on all these, different records. And like the classic Phil Collins snare is basically this. It's the piccolo. And it's so like deceptively like has like so much low end for being such a thin little snare drum. Noble and Cooley makes some great snares. I mean, the inside looks beautiful.
But this has that bark that we hear on all of those iconic
Absolutely.
Phil
It's got
Collins songs.
the bark, but also, it was one of those where, live, especially in smaller clubs, it had just such a great natural tone to it. Behind so many like iconic songs,
And that's the exact model, not the actual snare.
Yeah, he's got his that it's like in Switzerland or something.
Right, and that's the one, right,
Yeah.
that he actually used, but it's this.
Yeah.
Right, amazing.
The exact same,
Wow.
size.
It's amazing that a drum that, like a 3 3/4 or whatever this is for depth, it's so shallow.
Yeah.
That would be the drum that has this size of a house
Exactly.
snare sound.
No, yeah, it's really kind of deceptive, but it's got a lot of low end. And this is another Noble and Cooley snare, and these two are the same actually. And I was using these on like the first couple legs of like my dad's tour.
6.5s?
No, these I think are 7.
They do look a little deeper.
Yeah, I don't think they're 7.5, but I think they're 7 inches, and it's like, the beautiful wood snares. I still use them on recordings every now and then. They have a real like nice warmth and just like a real great woody sound. Then this is a Gretsch Renown, which just came with this stock kit, which is the same with these two kind of toms. One of the kits I used to have, and I usually just had this tuned down really low for more of like a fat sound for like, different. I was like, if I'm gonna keep it, let me give it like its right purpose, and so I tuned it way down so it sounds pretty cool. And this one's a Sonar AQ2 snare. I don't actually even know how I got this. I think I just went through storage one time and was like, why is this here? And so I was like, I'm going to keep it. And I started playing it. It's a really solid snare, I mean, it's, it's got a nice warmth, but I've never really, I mean, there's so many other ones that I'm never really using it, unfortunately. And then continuing on, this is the 13-inch Gretsch kit, which is from, actually, no, this is the 14-inch. That's the 13. This is a 11 by 14 rack tom.
Okay, to complete your studio kit.
Yeah,
when you
so
need it.
I kind of like now pretty much have this huge range of shells, which is great for whatever I need if I'm doing session stuff or anything. But that was like super, like that was like my Dave Grohl Nirvana moment. It was like I wanted like a huge, I mean, it's also very Bond inspired, but to have like a 14-inch rack tom was fun. And then these three, actually, Yang just brought them back from his house because I had given them to him. But these are from like one of my first childhood kits back in Switzerland. It's like a Gretsch, Catalina. Oh, gotta make it fit. Catalina kit, and it's got like these are like the same heads that I've been on since I'm like 8 years old, and they're all like beat up. But actually, this started off as like a gray sparkle, but they've aged so much that now they're like this like gold sparkle. But yeah, that's like 3 parts of like one of my first kits that I ever had. Well, actually, this one is a hand-hammered chrome snare, 13-inch, and this is one of my favorite snares that I own. It sounds amazing, and that's what I used to use as like a side snare until I kind of stopped using a side snare altogether. It's just got this great like punch to it, and this like I haven't touched this tuning-wise in like months. But it still sounds like that. These are like the same heads I was using on my dad's tour. Have not touched them, and it's like still sounds like that. And so it's one of my favorite ones. I use mainly 14s. If they were a 14-inch, then I'd use it probably all the time. But it's a great kind of auxiliary kind of thing to have. Moving on, the 9x13 rack tom. These two are like some old stock Gretsch snare, because this is like an old Gretsch kit that I found in another storage thing that I think I was given like as a kid, or it was like a friend's as a kid, like one of those more entry-level kits. So I donated it to the studio, and I was like, well, I'm not going to use it, and these are just the snares that kind of came with it. So nothing kind of crazy there. And then this is a 6.5 by 14, same as that white marine pearl finish, but just black Gretsch USA Custom snare. And this is the snare I was using on the Genesis tour through the whole time. And yeah, sounds amazing. Brad Marsh can, tune the hell out of a snare drum. So even if it was wood, it still like had the cut of a metal drum in an arena context. Then we talked about this, the same exact snare. It was just a spare. This is a 12-inch Tempest snare that JP, my drum teacher at the time, back in the day, gifted to me for like my 13th or 14th birthday or something. It's a great sounding drum. Then a 12 and 10-inch rack tom from an old Gretsch Renown kit, and then the two 8 and 10 concert toms from the rest of the kit, which is my concert tom kit, which is the kit I used on...
Oh, here we go. This is the kit from December of 2014,
Yep.
that formidable night
Yep.
and show that seemed to start about a half a dozen dominoes falling.
Exactly.
All good. This is the kit.
Yeah,
This is the
full concert tom. So it's got the 8 and 10, 12, 15, 16, 18, and then a 20-inch kick drum.
Okay.
And
The 20 like you used on your dad's tour.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
nice.
it's a pretty shallow. I think it may also be by 14 or something. And nothing beats the concert tom kit. I don't get to use it often, but it's still, it's always there if I ever want to bring it out.
Now, you might win the best birthday gift of all time award after we see this next item.
I obviously, huge John Bonham fan, and my dad is good friends with Robert Plant. Helps him, he produced like one of his solo records, and just was good friends.
He played on.
Yeah, he was just. They've just been friends for ages, and I've gotten to know Robert since. But at the time, I think it must have been maybe my 16th or 17th birthday, and my dad asked Robert, he's like, "Do you happen to have any John Bonham like just something laying around?" Because he just wanted to surprise me, and so he gave me this old original. I think it must be a drum throne case, or I don't know, maybe it's a conga case. I don't know what was in this, but it's an old original Led Zeppelin, I think from like way back in the day when they were still like lugging their own gear, So it's like one of the most prized possessions that I have, and it's always here. And
it was Bonzo's, of course.
It was
right?
Bonzo. I feel
through Robert Plant.
feel very honored to just even have it and it be mine. You know what I mean? It's a kind of pinch myself moment all the time.
And a gift from your dad on top of it. It just got so much
it's
beauty to it. Like
definitely.
Oh my God.
And I think it was like hanging in like Robert Plant's like garage or something. He's like, "Well, I found this thing." And it's like, "I'll take it." It's like no questions asked.
I love it.
But yeah, that's pretty much that. That's pretty much the snare and extra drum collection. I mean, there's something like, the Genesis kit and stuff is in storage, and
right, okay.
I can't keep freeloading and brain damage and just leaving all my drums here. So this is as much as I'm getting away with at the moment.
I love it. And you're going to see some B-roll of Nic's organization of his drum heads, because this is definitely a little OCD, right?
Yeah,
but that's a good
bit.
thing. So Nic Collins, thank you very much for sharing it. Modern drummer. I'm David Frangioni. I hope you enjoyed seeing this great collection. And check out Nic's podcast and check out Nic's full rundown. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, guys.